Hello everyone, my name is Caroline McKeever. I'm the Curriculum Hub Manager for Health and Social Care in Northern Ireland, and I'm based at the Northwest Regional College. Today I have a very special guest, Deborah Witterson from AppNI Housing Association, who would like to share with you all a wee bit about her role in housing and her journey throughout. So thank you, Deborah, for taking time out to have this chat with me.
Thank you very much, Caroline. It's a pleasure to be here.
No problem, I really appreciate it. I've got a number of questions here I'd like to ask you, and the first question is I just want to know what your current title is in housing and what kinds of things do you do in this role?
Okay. Well, I'm the Director of Homes and Communities in AppNI Housing Association. What do I do? Well, it's a completely varied role. It changes from day to day. So I could be doing anything from sitting here talking to you about the future of apprenticeships in housing, through to this evening when I've got a committee meeting and we'll be talking about the strategy of the organisation. But most importantly, I think my role for me is about making sure that the tenants that we work for get the best possible services that we can deliver. And we do that through a range of things. It's through making sure we have the right staff, that we have the right services in place, the right ways of delivering those services, and that we listen and provide opportunities to listen to our tenants. So there would be a range of things that the job encompasses. I think one of the great things in my role is being able to see tenants develop their skills and their abilities and as they live in their homes, but also to see the staff do that as well. And just look at the range of things, how we deliver our homes. It's a great opportunity because as a director, we're working with the strategy, so looking towards the future, but also I've got those opportunities to sneak out and go to tenant meetings now and again and keep back in with the grassroots side of things. So it's a great position, very honoured to be in it.
That's brilliant. That gave us a really good flavour of the type of work that you're currently doing. It sounds very busy and it sounds very rewarding.
It's always busy, and it's every housing association or across social housing. You will find that there's so many roles and so many things that we do that there's never a spare minute and the job is never ever dull. That's the one thing I'd guarantee anybody.
That's brilliant. Well, thank you. So just taking a wee bit back because you're at the top end, the director level. I just want to know, well, what is housing, or what does it mean to work in housing? What does it mean for you?
I think first of all, I think I'll take the first bit, which was what is housing, because everybody just sees it as bricks and mortar. But when you look, the title of my job is homes, because housing is all about homes for people. And I think that's really important that we don't forget, and for anybody who's interested in housing, it's remembering that that is an essential tool for everybody. A house and a home is where, it's where we go for our safe space. It's where we invite our friends. It's where we bring our families and we grow our families up. It's where we just store our belongings. It's that safe place that everybody needs, and it's an essential tool. Without it, we can't grow, we can't prosper. And so the key thing about housing for me is that we have to provide it for every person. I think in terms of my job, it's about making sure that we provide the right types of accommodation and the right services to facilitate people living in there, that we do, we allocate the right types of property to the right types of people. But I don't think that we can get away from the fact that there is housing out there that people can't afford, people on low incomes. And so social housing is absolutely key to providing to allowing access to everybody to affordable housing.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. And it's a really powerful statement that you're making there. I think if anybody's interested in getting into housing, that I suppose my next question is going to be how do you get into housing? How do you get in there? But I suppose from a person thinking about getting into housing, housing is a mass You know, there's so many roles and there's so many things that you can do. But what's powerful is that you're really reaching out to the individual person and trying to accommodate, you know, and trying to support that person to love the rest of it as well, you know. So it's very powerful, the role that housing has and how it sits in, you know, the community.
Completely. And that's why, as you know, the role is open to anybody because there's so many skills that's required. But what you do need, and what I'd say to anybody who's thinking about looking at social housing, looking at their career and what they want to do generally in their life, is social housing needs passion. You need to be committed to people.
Yeah.
And if you've just, it doesn't matter what you want to do, there's a job, there's a role in housing, in social housing for it, let me tell you, and I'll go into those types of roles. But you have to start off, whether you've got a degree or whether you're coming in as an apprentice with an interest, you need to be committed to working with and for people. Yeah. And I think that's the greatest thing. Somebody coming in, if somebody was talking to their mum or dad at the moment and saying, I don't know what to do, but I'd like to work with people, I'd say, come along and talk to us, because there is, if you're skilled and if you're technical, if you just like talking with people, if you're an IT person, if you're good with figures, you know, there's a role in there for you. So, you know, for me, housing can offer anything and everything to anybody. But your starting point is what's inside you, what makes you tick, and what do you want to do with that. So does that make sense?
No, that makes sense. You know, you've given me an outline of, you know, what is housing, and, you know, and you're bringing out your passion, you know, throughout. I can hear it, you know, and I think anybody listening will equally be able to hear it, because my next question, what is it? What's the buzz? What do you get out of working on housing?
Okay. The biggest buzz for me is the getting out and seeing the tenants. That's on a personal level. But the great thing for me about working in housing is it's never the same thing. You wake up in the morning, you could plan your day, and that's out the window by the time you've had your first cup of tea and opened your emails because something else is calling you. So the variety, I think, in housing, that's the stuff that keeps you on your toes. Yeah. The working with people with like minds, you know, that's fantastic, because as I said before, you know, we come into it in different ways from different routes, but once you get there, you find that you've got this commonality, so that the team has one aim. Might do it in completely different ways, and we can have great debates about the ways that we do it, but I think that working with people that have a common aim in life is something that really does sort of motivate you and keep you going, because it's not always easy, don't get me wrong. You know, I talk about it with passion, but there's days when I could quite gleefully pull my hair out and go, wow, what was that all about? Yeah. But it's having that team, those people that understand that to work alongside, that makes it, that gets you through that day and back into the next, which could be completely different. So, variety, I think.
The variety, aye. Yeah. And that's really important. You know, you stay stagnant long enough, you know, you can, the job itself can become quite dull, but just from listening to you, that in housing, there's a variety of different things, so diverse, so many different types of, and groups of people that you're working with on a day-to-day. And that could be with your tenants or with your team. And then trying to think about the future and how better you could do things, you know. So it sounds like it's a really vibrant place of work, you know. Very much so. And the range of jobs for somebody coming into housing, you know, that it doesn't matter what skills and what interests you've got, there'll be something for you within a social housing setting. Well, that's brilliant. And yet talk there about some, you know, sometimes it can be quite challenging as a housing officer, right? So if I can bring your head space back down to as a housing officer, because these apprenticeships, you know, that we're currently offering, the typical job role or the typical end job will be a housing officer. What kind of challenge, could you give me an example of a challenge that a typical housing officer might face? Yes, on a day-to-day basis, a typical day would face quite a number of challenges for housing officers. People aren't always
compliant. People don't always think that you're doing a great job. Sometimes people have, other aspirations other than what you can actually deliver. And so, you can have frustrations taken out on you. It's not unusual for housing officers to be, have somebody ranting down the phone because they don't think that we fix something as quickly as they possibly wanted it to do. The fact that, we have set days, it's very hard sometimes to explain we have processes because we all want what we want and we want it now. And so there's frustrations that can happen that way. Not everybody behaves well in their homes. I've lived in houses where I've had neighbours that have irritated and upset me and been noisy or loud or intrusive. If you're living in your own home, you have to deal with it, or what we tend to find is that people will come to us and expect us to be able to deal with it. And if we can't, because people don't always listen to us, then, that can be challenging and difficult for staff. So I do know, when staff have had and do have bad days where people will take out their frustrations on them. But there's also that realization that can happen. And so we do try to support people through that. And as I said, that's when the team is really important. But then the good days far outweigh the bad, and the amount of compliments, we keep a compliments register because we have to report on any complaints, but we keep the compliments because they're the things that really keep us going. And there's lots and lots of people that will outweigh those bad days. So but those are challenges.
And I suppose you would need some skills or qualities before even thinking about coming into housing, because if that's a typical challenge, you kind of have to come with your own bag of things, and then throughout the progression of an apprenticeship, you get to be able to practice, and then you be able to, perform and, put it on, put it under implementation. But I'm just wondering, just for somebody who's thinking now, God, that sounds really something that I really want to do, and I do want to help people, and I want to work in housing, right? And I'm, they're really good, looking forward to it, right? And what kind of skills or attributes would that person be coming in with, before progressing?
I think there's two key things really that somebody who wants to come into housing really, really needs. One is resilience, because that's what gets you through. And the second is reflection. You need to be able to look on a day and think back, what did I do well? And what would I do better or differently next time? And if you can do those two things, and that's how you can see that through your career you could use those two things, then once you're in, we can build on that. We can train people so that those things become matter of fact, that it's just what you do. I never go home before I've sat in my car, turn the engine on, let it warm up, and think about, what have I done today? What can I do differently or better? Working from home, I wouldn't leave my office to go into the rest of the house until I've done that process. And that's because it's been learned over time. And I've had training to help me do that. It means you don't carry the baggage from the bad things, but you recognise the good things. So when you leave, you can face the next day with a fresh start. And I think that's something that is inherent in people, but that we can practice, develop, and fine-tune through training and development. So I'd say, look at yourself and think, am I able to think about what I do myself and how that can impact on people? And am I strong enough to recognise the days when things go wrong? That's just one of those days, and move on from it.
So. That's brilliant. Thank you. And I've got one last question. You'll be glad to hear. I'll take you off the spotlight. I just want to know, just from a director point of view, and you're working on the AppNI House Association. But I suppose in general, whether it's general or with your own housing association, What are your thoughts on the future of housing for Northern Ireland?
The future is fantastic when you think about it, because people will always need houses. If you want job security, social housing is definitely the place to be. I think as the housing associations communicate more and work together more, then we can only achieve more. And I think that's coming together. There's the Chartered Institute of Housing, and the way that we've been working with the universities, with the colleges, to try to look at how do we develop apprentices, how do we bring more people into housing, all these things. The communication, I think, is stronger, and that for me, that's our future, that's our strength. The more we communicate, the more we can develop, the more new houses we can bring on. And I think working in silos has to be a thing of the past. It's working together to complement each other that needs to happen, and I believe that will.
Well, that's brilliant. So loads of opportunity down the line. It's a job that will keep snowballing and keep rolling and rolling. And if you could think maybe like in the next 5 to 10 years, the kinds of opportunities that housing officers will have, because as you say, there has been great collaboration around the colleges and the universities to really try and get housing back on the map, to provide those opportunities and training opportunities. So that's brilliant. That was really good. It's been a pleasure, as always, Deborah. So thank you so much for answering all of my questions. I think you've given a really, really good overview of what housing is, what to expect, and how you can get onto it. And most importantly, why housing is such a brilliant career choice.
It is indeed. Thank you very much, Caroline, for the opportunity to talk to you today.